Okay, good morning. Today we're going to look at the JoinMax Digital Robotics Kit from China, and we'll also be looking at the sensor pack that they provide as well. The JoinMax at first sight comes in a case quite like a Lego Mindstorm, and there are some significant differences. Firstly, I would add that most of what we've got here, because this is a Chinese import, does actually have Chinese writing all over it. The kit will look somewhat like Lego and somewhat like Fisher Technics. It's kind of a hybrid concept between the two. And as you can see, there are a variety of bits and pieces in. There's the standard Lego style beams, there's a group of sensors, there's gears, belts, cogs, axles, linkages together, and we'll go through this and have a look, and potentially we'll just unpack everything and pop it into the right places in the box. Okay, so one departure from what we normally see in a box like this. This is a base plate, and the base plate allows us to do things like stationary machines. So we can build things with conveyor belts, things that pick stuff up and move it from one place to another, and it provides a nice base for doing that. I'll just pop that down over there. Right, axles. Obviously every good machine needs an axle somewhere in it. Two sets of axles. Beams to be able to connect and build and support things. There's a couple of different sets. These are straight beams of various lengths. These ones are angled pieces, so you've got right angles, you've got 135 degree stuff, you've got T-pieces, those kind of things. You have a USB cable for connecting the controller to your computer. You also have a set of connectors for connecting sensors to your controller. So that's that piece. Why don't we just go ahead and unbag these so these can go into the correct places. So if we use this large one for our beam type blocks, and these are very similar in feel to the Fisher Technics, and I think there's probably a limited number of ways of being able to put together a series of robotic pieces. So pretty much they all have the same kind of 90 degrees, 135 degrees, T-pieces. So there we go with our series entry into there. We'll also put the axles into there. Axles of varying lengths, and there's basically two of each. We'll pop those in there, keep moving the bags away in the hope that they stay clear. So that's axles. So that's giving us our axles and pieces for that. Let's see what else do we have in here. These are the clips that connect pieces together. I'm going to move those out of the way because those are gears. Everything on here is clipped together, and there's varying length of clips. I'm just going to open these, and I'll try and open these, and pop these into this smaller slot, and move those in there. There seems to be an ample amount of these connectors. Obviously they give you sufficient to make a model of, I would guess, quite some complexity. So again, last bit on here. Then we'll move on to the gears and pulleys, which obviously, as we all know, are the heart of any machine. It's all very well being able to control it, but if you can't make it do anything, then it's pretty useless. We have some flat extender pieces, and I'm going to pop these in the kind of stationary piece. And these again are quite simple. You would clip a piece into here to connect it together. There's no Lego style bumps to be able to connect them. You can't just free connect like that. You have to actually use something like this to link it in. But obviously once you've got to that point and start linking things, you can make quite complex structures. So I'll pop that down there. On the gearing side, as you can see, things are a little bit more colourful than you would find with some other kits. Nice bright dual beveled gears, so you can run stuff either as a flat gear straight on, or you can use the bevel. So just open that, I'll show you what I mean. The gears will work nicely that way, as well as being able to work that way, and you can dual bevel, so you could actually run something that way to drive two axles from one device. So that's that type of gear. We have a smaller set of blocks here. These blocks do have double-sided connectors, so you can actually connect in that way to build pieces. Interestingly, what you get in the smaller gear set is not just the double bevels, and I'll show you what I mean. You get connectors to extend axle length. You go, again, they're double beveled, so you can run that way quite nicely. But you also get a series of rack and pinions, so you can build something that moves that way, kind of nice. You can also build it so it'll move on a bevel. So you can use these quite nicely for steering. Final sets are pulleys and an extender, and also I believe we have a worm in there as well. Worm gears are often overlooked when we're doing engineering projects, but a worm gear can be quite handy as well, because you can do a worm drive on that to move that along, or to move along that way. So that's quite a handy departure. And I'm not going to undo I'm not going to undo this bit yet. This bit actually has a standard dragger ball bearing, so you can pop the ball bearing in the holder and move things along. You've got a couple of belts to go with these to make them additional wheels, and you've also got rubber bands that you can use to do various extended pulley devices. In this section we have all manner of connectors to connect in 3 dimensions. So we have, take those out. You've got some nice 4-way blocks. You have the ability to connect that way. You also have the ability to, for instance, you can plug these into the bases like that to give you a stand for an axle, so you could build that up and you could run an axle through there. So it's very flexible. It's nicely thought out. And the build quality, it appears to be some kind of plasticized nylon, so it looks like it's quite a long lasting setup. So we'll pop those in there. The next bag is a series of, let's see, we have a light sensor, so you can build something to follow a black line or look for edges, edge detector. We have push buttons, so obviously momentary hold on and off. More light sensors, push button, and you have a colour lamp. It's a multicolour LED, and we'll have a quick look at that in a minute when we get round to that part of it. Interestingly, we have two ping pong balls, two coloured ping pong balls, so you can do colour detection, find the yellow one, find the blue one. It's handy because quite often when you get a kit like this, you start looking for things to be able to use as objects for a machine to work with, and they provide it. It's quite nice. You have a couple of motors. Let's see. The motors feel nice and chunky. Obviously everything's screwed together nicely. We're looking at 300 RPM as a standard speed, powered off the end here. Very solid. Again, the RG11 connector, so you can connect with a standard cable, so it's one, that's pretty much is the same as all of these. One type of cable fits input and output, so we'll pop those in there. I'm going to pop those, I'll leave the cables there for now. I'll take that out, we'll look at that in a minute. You have a couple of nice big driving wheels, and these are pretty solid. I'll take these out and we'll take a look. Attacked by the plastic bag. So here we have the tyres for the wheels. Does not want to come out. Standard rubber tyres over nylon wheels, and these are hard to put on. This is something that probably a teacher might have to do, because this is a bit of a battle. They will fit, they will fit, they will fit. And there we go. There's one wheel. Nice traction on there. And we'll do the other one as well. So far the kit seems to be quite well equipped. Obviously dozens of connectors to hook everything together. The base plate to me is a nice touch. It's always handy. I mean, you don't really need to have, when you're working with robotics, it's nice to have a device that's semi-autonomous and wanders off and does its own thing, but it's also nice to have things that cover what other machines do. And if you don't have a solid base to put it on, you're looking you find yourself looking for things to be able to screw things down onto. The final component in here is the RCU, or the control unit. The control unit, it looks very much like a Lego Mindstorm. However, there are some significant differences. Obviously, batteries are the same, for 6 AA's to give you a 9-volt capability. But this also has the ability to take an external power supply. So if you're building something that does data logging, or if you're building something that needs to have a fixed supply because it's going to be running for a while, it's nice to be able to plug it in. It's not going to be able to chew your batteries down. USB connector to be able to connect it to a PC for software download, and an indicator which will let you know that your Wi-Fi is connected. Interestingly, they haven't gone the Bluetooth route, they've gone Wi-Fi. Kind of neat because you can have you can set the thing up to go on a network, and you can have different people working on programs for it, and you can download the programs to run it. There is no, at the moment, there is no extended storage. What you've got is what's in the block, and the other departures from what you might find on other devices are, you've got 4 motor controls, which is the same as a Mindstorm, but you have 8 sensor inputs, which kind of expands what you can do with it. For instance, you can have ultrasonics at the front and the rear, you can have line detection at the front and the rear, you can put additional lights on, and these will actually work with the lights that are supplied with the kit. So like this kind of thing, you can plug that in and you can turn lights on and off. The big difference between this and a Mindstorm is when you turn it on, instantly you'll see it's a colour display. It's simpler in operation in that you've only got the 3 buttons rather than the 6 buttons you've got on a Mindstorm. Obviously you can see you've got programming steps. You've got, let's go back, I don't want to download, I want to exit that. You've got Wi-Fi downloader programs, you've got disk download, so that's always across USB. You've got things you can run to test it. You've got, this is your test setup, so you can look to test a motor, you can test touch, you can test color LEDs. So obviously if I was to go here now and get one of these cables, I'm going to take a cable and I'm going to plug it into P1, and I'm going to put a color LED on, and this is a touch screen as well, so if I touch that, obviously what's happening, it's controlling outputs, so it's basically firing the LED, so red, green, blue, yellow. And it's kind of a cool device. We can exit that. You can look at sound recorder. It's got a built-in microphone and what have you, so if you can see the level going up as we record, and it's quite a nice functional device, and that's basically it for the main kit. I'm just going to turn that off and pop that down in there, and I'll put that sensor back in, sit the sensors there. The other thing that I have is from the same company. This is a sensor kit that is designed to work with the control unit that's in here, and this has a whole bunch of crazy sensors. Starting here, this AHRS sensor. This is a 3-plane XYZ motion detector. So as you move around, it can keep a track of where it's been, where it's gone. We have a magnetic sensor, so this would be able to keep a track of things affecting a magnetic field. A port converter. This basically just gives us pinouts so that we can actually connect to the device that way. You can connect your own sensors into it. Temperature and humidity sensor, so you can figure out whether it really is that cold. a photosensitive sensor, so it's basically a light level. Little light sensor in there, you can see it just on the tip there. Flame or temperature sensor, looks for heat. A external microphone module, measuring volume. Infrared receive and transmit, obviously you can make a link and break the barrier kind of thing. Handy if you're building, again, as we were talking before about stationary machines, you can build something up on the base unit, and you could have like sensors here, and it would detect the ball passing through. It's kind of handy. It really does allow you to reflect things that you'd find in real life. You've got a human sensor, which is basically infrared and kind of detects presence of a person. You've got a recorder. Again, this recorder lets you do multiple recordings and playback, kind of like a well, just gives you additional sounds you can make from the machine. An infrared distance measure, so just like you have ultrasonics, this will also work infrared, so it can send a pulse out, detect how far away you are from things. That's the infrared. I can't get it back in the box. It goes in this somehow, like that. This is a cool one, bearing in mind it's from China where they have a lot of air pollution problems. This is an air quality sensor, and this basically has the particulate detector, looks for different bad things in the air, so you can use that to sense that kind of thing. Ultrasonic sensor, like short circuit, Five Alive or Wally, its eyes. And then finally there is a fan. Not really a sensor, just a device that you can propel and move air around. It may well be that you have something that you build that you want to focus and you want to push air through to get a condensed air sample over the air quality sensor, and that would just allow you to blow air around it. And that basically is the contents of the JoinMax kit. As I said before, the controller is quite nice. It's a ARM Cortex based device, which means that in theory it should also be able to work with the Easy Builder software from Easy Robot. Obviously you've got setup, so you've got your language settings. Do you want to initialize the disk? No, not at the moment. Everything seems to set to initialize the disk, but it's quite a nice device. It's nice and solid. Overall, I like the product. As soon as we get the access to the software, I'll be running some videos with perhaps a product build and putting the software through its paces, putting the robot through its paces. I kind of like the look of this dinosaur guy, and I think he could be quite clever. And on that note, that's a wrap.